Even myself, I have this idea of farming as the way my cousins used to do it. You know, it was very traditional and not a lot of heavy machinery and stuff. And I think most people think of farming as that. We have this fungus that attacks bananas, right? And it's such a headache, and we need to treat the bananas. When it's on the conventional side, we can use chemicals, but on the organic side, you can't use chemicals. I mean, it's organic. You can actually program your drone to see exactly where the disease is and treat that exact spot, rather than just spraying the whole farm.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the 021 podcast. My name is Jifa Mensa Okpata, and today we have an interesting guest in the house. Her name is Dibor Diop. She's a financial controller at Golden Exotics Limited. She works at the intersection between finance and agriculture. And so, let's welcome her. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jifa. Hi. Thank you for having me.
I'm
good.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for making the time. Really, truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm good. Thank you.
Great. So, walk us through your journey. How did you get to this point of your life?
So first, I would just like to maybe clarify what Golden Exotics is.
Yeah, sure.
So it's a company that's part of a bigger group, a French group called Compagnie Fruitière. And so the group started off as importers of fruits and vegetables, but exotic fruits and vegetables, so from Africa mainly. So they started off in the 30s as that, and then after the second generation took over, they thought about why not just control the whole supply chain, all the way from the production all the way to the shelf. So at Golden Exotics in Ghana, we have farms. Banana farms. So it's approximately 2,500 hectares of just bananas. And so we produce bananas and we export them mainly to Europe, but also in the sub-region. So Niger, Burkina Faso, and then also to Mauritania through Senegal. So that's the company. Just for that, for everyone to understand. And yes, so I'm in charge of everything related to the numbers. So when it comes to the profit and loss, so what we would say P&L, so we would calculate every month or every end of period, you would calculate the profit and loss. But you also have to take into account the different costs. So it's mainly cost analysis. From when the banana is this big all the way to when you harvest and when you pack, because everything is packed in Ghana and then shipped ready. So when it gets to Europe, they just take the box and put it directly on the shelf. So everything is done here, and you need to go through that whole process. And so what we do, my team and I, is capture the cost at every level of that. And that's what we would call financial controllers. So it's a sister of accounting, but we're making it make sense, because some of the managers, they would not have time to look at a balance sheet or an income statement or whatnot, and they want to know how much they're making and how much they're spending. So we then need to find a way to have all those figures presented in a way that speaks to them. And that's the main thing that we do. And how I got here, it was honestly manifestation.
Love that.
Yes, I was living in France for the longest time. And during COVID, which was very harsh for those living in Europe, you might have witnessed it. The lockdown was harsh. All of a sudden, you don't have any more social life. You can't go out. You can't watch live sports on TV. You can't. That's very important
Your
to me.
favorite.
Yes. So it was a really rough time for me. And then I was also far from everyone. My father's from Senegal and my mother's from Uganda. And I was in France, and my sisters are scattered around the world. So because we had a lot of time, I was doing a lot of reflection, and I decided that I wanted to get closer to home. And so I started doing due diligence on different countries in West and East Africa. And I had a whole list of countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Senegal, And then East Africa, there was Kenya, Zambia, because I've lived there before, Uganda, obviously. And so I just started manifesting. And then anytime I would bump into someone who wanted to know, I would just tell them, look, I want to go to these countries. I want a job, blah, blah, blah. And surprisingly, I was helping a friend move one day. And one of them asked me what was my next plan, because I was saying that I wanted to leave Nantes, the city I was living in. And I said, well, I have a list of countries that I would love to go to, mainly Ghana, because it's a country, I don't know, I've always been attracted to Ghana without having ever been to Ghana before. And she said she knew someone who worked in a banana plantation. Fast forward to a week later, they have a call and she says, hey, I met a girl. She wants to come to Ghana. Is there something? He said, well, what's her profile? Because our financial controller just resigned. Send me her CV. And that was October 2020. One thing led to another. March 2021, I came here and I had the job. And so it was mainly manifesting. And there was a lot of interviews involved, obviously, but a lot of it was just being positive and being like, you know what? In the next stage of my career, I'm past 30. I think I want to get closer to home. I've done my time here. It's okay. It's still valuable, but I'm ready to take on the next challenge. And that's how I ended up here.
Love it.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So you and finance in agriculture, is it different from working in any other industry?
Not necessarily. So before coming to Ghana, I was already a little bit in agriculture because I was working for this group called Cargill.
Okay.
And it's mainly, well, they do a lot of things, but where I was, the business unit I was working for was mainly supply chain of grains and oilseeds. Okay. So, which is still agriculture because you would buy from cooperatives. And you hedge your position on the financial market, and then you would resell to other Cargill entities that would then transform the grains or oilseeds into either biodiesel or starch or, all that. So I was already a little bit in the sector, and I think it was just easier and it made more sense to continue in it, but I could have easily gone to, I don't know, energy or fashion or, because ultimately the standards are the same. Their international financial standards are the same in most of the countries. And then you follow a certain type of rules and regulations on how to do your numbers, how to do the reporting and all that. And ultimately, regardless of the industry, you would still follow those rules and guidelines and whatnot. So I think I randomly bumped into agriculture because I was looking for an internship at the time, and I found something from someone who was in the school I went to who was looking for an intern. It's funny how most of my experiences are just through word of mouth and just manifesting things, I guess. And I bumped into Cargill, which I had no idea of before, and I worked there from when I graduated until when I moved to Ghana. So I've always just I've started my career in agriculture, food industry. So it just made sense. But I could have easily done the same finance in another sector. I do have sectors I would not necessarily want to work for ethical reasons. But, ultimately, I mean, I have worked for other sectors that are very questionable, but that's a conversation for another day.
Okay. When people think of agribusiness, they think farming.
Yes.
What would you like to tell them?
It is farming. It's ultimately it's farming, but on a larger scale. I'd say so. So I'm from so my father's side. They're the farmers in Senegal. So we're from the small coast. In French, we would say Petite Côte. And so our people were the farmers and the fishermen. So I have this, even myself, I have this idea of farming as the way my cousins used to do it. It was very traditional and not a lot of heavy machinery and stuff. And I think most people think of farming as that.
Yeah, like it's just like very manual. I go with my hose and my cutlass, and then I go dig and plant seeds.
Yes. And they're usually complaining a lot because, they depend on the weather, they depend on the campaigns. So Senegal is quite a dry country. So it's like we even have a traditional dance to call for rains, in our cultures, because it's just so scarce. And you just see it as like something manual and something quite miserable, really. But there's so much more to that. And it's just so gratifying to know that just with a piece of land and a bit of know-how, you can just feed a whole community, and not just feed, but also like make money from it, because ultimately a lot of people are interested in, earning. And I think it would be great if we could take that stigma out of.
I agree.
And just think of it as, guys, this is the future. And it's not because I'm in the industry, but we ultimately are all going to have to eat.
True.
And as we saw during COVID, the main companies that kept going and people were still going to work, it was the food agriculture. They kept going. So even when all the airports were shut down and all, like, that just tells you how big of an impact agriculture is and farming in general is in our lives, and whether you're a small scale farmer or industrial level, it's just all beneficial and really important in our lives.
Really important.
Yeah.
Do you think that they can make the industry a little more attractive?
It depends, because attractive, what is attractive?
Attractive enough to get more people saying, I want to go into agribusiness or agriculture.
Yes. I think they could make it a bit more attractive in countries like Ghana. Now I consider Ghana as home. But for instance, in Ghana, if you want to motivate people to actually do farming and not come to the cities and try to hustle in the cities and stuff, but rather stay where they're from and try to work the land and make something out of it, they need a little bit of a push, like, just to see that they're not alone. I'm not saying the government should ultimately be doing everything, but as a farmer or as someone coming from a farming family, you need to see that if you get into this, there'll be something in it for you. And it starts with the infrastructure. Like, how do I get whatever I produce from where I produce it from all the way to where it's supposed to go to? So it's the roads, it's, and then also the subsidies as well, because it's really hard to compete against imported goods. They're ultimately much cheaper because it's large scale. I'm not going against what I do as a business, but this is just me as a person speaking on farming. So as a small scale farmer or just a farmer in general in Ghana, it's really hard for you to be competitive when facing imported goods. So it'll be very motivating to know that you have that kind of support and that maybe you're subsidized by the government or by whatever it is, but at least that you see the value in it and you don't have the drawbacks of, okay, now I've produced my tomatoes. How do I get them to Accra? Or how much does it cost me to get my tomatoes to Accra? How do all these things? We have the Volta River that's like amazing, and we don't even have. I'm not saying we should have barges or anything, but it could be a way to like move goods from the distant
down
regions
to the south,
down to things like that. So you need that kind of motivation so that when you get into farming, you know that actually it's okay, because I have a whole support behind me. And also people are open to like consuming locally. Our oranges are not orange, but they're very nice.
Yeah, they are.
Things like that. So maybe we as consumers as well should turn to our local production. Just, you need to find that balance between, we each have a responsibility into making farming attractive.
Yeah. So from the government end, building the right infrastructure to encourage the farmers, and then from the consumers end, actually patronizing these farmers?
Yes. For instance, our farms are at the border of Greater Accra and Eastern Region, so next to Akuse. And over there, so there's this irrigation scheme. And it was a massive project with the World Bank and Ghana Irrigation Department and JICA, which is a Japanese development agency, I think. And they had this massive irrigation scheme whereby they build a whole network of canals, and then you get the river from the Volta. And then as farmers, you just get the water, because with the network of canals, you just get the water that's pumped from the Volta, which is amazing. We need more of that, because that's how you encourage people to be like, okay, you know what? I'm in a remote area, water is scarce, but at least I have this that facilitates my access to water, because you always need water, so that's an example that could motivate people.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So now let's go back to your job as a financial controller. You spoke earlier about you being part of the process, right from farm to shelf, calculating the cost and everything. Are there specific courses you have had to take to help you thrive in this industry? Are there any different things that you've had to do at any point in time just so that you could meet the demand?
So I went to a business school. That's my curriculum. I went to a business school, and most importantly, I need to acknowledge the former company I worked for, Cargill, because I was lucky enough to be hired as a graduate, which is like what they would call the young talents. So they would hire a pool of young talents and then train them intensively for 2 years. Trainings on communication, trainings on leadership. I was called a financial management trainee, and I was trained on communication, on working with different backgrounds, and being open-minded and all that. And also, I was trained on going to a new department and having to adapt really quick and get into my role really quick, because I only had 6 months to prove myself, and that's mainly thanks to Cargill. And those are the skills. So I did the school. Obviously, it teaches you all the theoretical things you need to know. But then the fact that I could just jump into a new environment that I didn't know before, and then just catch up and work with that, and then also set the right controls in place. The right controls being, if you say you sold 100, it needs to show on the books that it's 100. And we need to be sure of what we're saying, because we're then going to be audited by external auditors. So we would make sure everything's okay before we present our accounts, So all that is really thanks to the experience that I had, because I was lucky enough within the same company to go through different departments, different countries. I was in Zambia for a bit. I was in the UK for a bit, and it's completely different industries. I worked in a chicken plant, doing fresh chicken and the nuggets for McDonald's, for instance. And this was in Hereford, somewhere in the UK. I was in a soybean crushing plant, as in you take the soybean, you crush it, and you get the oil and the meal. This was in Zambia, So I was lucky enough to have these different experiences that really helped me when I came here. Even though it was not Cargill anymore, I could just dive into the banana industry and, understand first, and then start, making changes and making sure that what we have on the ground is perfectly reflected to the shareholders and the management and all that. So it's trainings, but it's also the education, I guess, and the teamwork, because you can't do it on your own.
Okay. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth in agriculture in Africa?
I said it before, I'll say it again. Infrastructure.
Just
honestly,
infrastructure?
If there's one thing that we need and that will just launch us, It's making sure that whatever we produce, wherever we produce it, goes fast and safe to wherever it's supposed to go. That's the biggest opportunity of growth, because once you know that whatever you're doing, because you don't want to work for nothing. So if I'm growing pineapples somewhere, in the north, not the north of Ghana, but like north of Accra, for instance, I want to be sure that I can move my pineapple before they rot and all that. And I need to make sure that I have the right infrastructure in place. And it's not just the roads, it's the truck drivers, it's the way you transport it and all that. And we're kind of lagging behind when it comes to Ghana or Senegal or Uganda. I mean, I can speak for the countries I'm from or the country I live in. We're honestly lagging behind. And that's one big opportunity of like, if we improve that,
everything will skyrocket.
Yes, not everything, but it's
most
already
things.
it's already a massive start. So we do organic bananas and conventional. We have a compost site, and so we obviously only use organic matter. One of our biggest challenges, and yet Ghana is one of the biggest producers of cocoa in the world, is just because we need the cocoa husk, for instance, for our compost. It's there, but now we just have to like get it from wherever it is and bring it to us. And
that's difficult, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's costly. It's, and yet we can all benefit from that value chain.
So it's like a whole supply chain that everyone can benefit from.
Yes.
Hopefully we do something about it. I feel like when I was in maybe like primary school or secondary school, they would ask you challenges of agriculture in Ghana, and then you name like lack of infrastructure, like bad roads, like all of these things, like weather conditions. And it's a shame that I'm old now. I mean, I'm not like so old, but like, we are still talking about this, like I'm in my 30s, and it's still lack of infrastructure, the weather conditions, no irrigation, like still very mechanical, very laborious, and all of these things. It's just that nothing has changed.
Yes, it's sad. But then there's also an element, I think, with Ghana, because it has gold, and gold makes clearly more money. Yeah. The focus is on the gold.
Fair.
And not necessarily on
everything.
Because you're making more from the gold than from bananas, for instance. So when I think, and I think some people might confirm this, but when it's a country that has rich soil, rich underground with metals or minerals and whatnot, the country would tend to like focus on that, which
more than
fair because you're.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting take. I've never thought of it like that, but I'd read more around it. When I was younger, I think when I was in secondary school or primary school, agric was the mainstay of the economy. I remember like when you look at like the different areas of the economy, like there's agric, then there's like the service sector, and there's another, I forgot it, but agric used to be like the main thing. By the time I got to the university, it wasn't agric. Agric was like the second. Yeah, so I don't know what it is now, but I'm sure that gradually like it's just really dwindled. And the good thing is a really valid point.
Oh yeah,
we are having issues like Galamsey and all of that. There really is a lot of gold, and people are doing any and everything to get it out, sell for money.
Yeah, so. I think we might need to confirm this, but I think it's Ghana's number one export.
Yeah, it's
in
gold.
value.
Yeah,
gold.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
sure.
you would focus on that because that's what making most money. I'm not saying let's not do gold, but let's not forget that we need to eat. And like why don't we just become autosufficient? With food.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say this with a pinch of salt because I'm working for export. Yeah. So you can tell me, look, you're being contradictory here. You're working for export. It's not even for the local market. But this is me also as an African, I guess, wanting to like see the agriculture sector actually be valued for what it is.
I agree. I agree.
And not just the tired old farmer who's complaining a lot.
True. It would make a huge difference. Like year on year, we have issues of like we have either like abundance of particular fruits and veggies and the lack of that. And when, for instance, when it's not tomato season, tomato is so expensive and everybody's complaining about it. Then when it's tomato season, we're all happy and then farmers are complaining about rot. So there's definitely that gap to be bridged to say we are going to have tomatoes all year round, not because we are planting them all year, but because we have the mechanisms to make sure that you get it at your table every single month of the year. So
yeah, definitely. And I think that's where now the finance bit comes into play, as in just with data, you can actually help out with that decision making, as in, look, at this time, these are the statistics and whatnot, and this is what this is how the market is reacting. So maybe rather than just focusing on one period of time to grow your tomatoes, maybe try to spread it, and this is how much it's going to cost you. But then, even though it's going to cost you a bit more, this is the value you can make from it and stuff. And so that's where they need to go together, because ultimately it needs to be beneficial for everyone. The farmer, the consumer, you know.
I agree. It's interesting that with finance you can forecast all of these things. Like with finance, with the right data, you can do your forecasting.
I think you just need it everywhere, really. If you want to start a business, if you want to start selling wache, you're going to write down how much it costs you to make a batch, right? And then at the end of the day, you're going to see how much you made from that batch. And then you can plan better. You can be like, okay, I bought this, but then I can buy more of this and then store it. And then maybe my wache would be a bit cheaper. And then for my best customers, I can give them discounts. But ultimately, that thinking is finance. It's basically what we're doing, but on a larger scale. It's just seeing how the numbers can make sense in your business and be beneficial for you, be beneficial for the customer, because you also want a happy customer is,
a happy life.
Yes. There you go. So yeah. I mean, you need other disciplines, obviously, but yeah,
it does make sense. At the end of the day, it comes down to the numbers. So
it's always follow the money.
Unless you're not running a business or you do not want to run a business. But the core of the business is customers and then your numbers.
Yeah.
You got the customers, how much money are they making you? How much are you spending? So,
yes.
What trends in agri-business are you most excited about currently?
So I'm going to talk about our farm again. But so we have this fungus that attacks bananas, right? And it's such a headache, and we need to treat the bananas. When it's on the conventional side, we can use chemicals, but on the organic side, you can't use chemicals. I mean, it's organic, so we use oil and whatnot. And for the longest time, we used to treat with planes. Which, the planes would have to fly really low, and sometimes it was dangerous and, very dangerous for the pilot and whatnot. And now we're using drones. And not only are we using drones, but it takes it a bit further, is that with some of the suppliers that we're working with, you can actually program your drone to see exactly where the disease is and treat that exact spot, rather than just spraying the whole farm, and I'm excited that it's agriculture. It's something that has always existed and that will always exist, but now we're bringing like the whole technology that we're bringing it into it. It's just exciting because you're more efficient, and obviously rather than spraying the whole farm, you're just spraying one particular section. You save money, and that's exciting. I
love that. I love the sound of that. Sounds like music to my ears.
When we first started the drones, I made a trip to the farm just to watch this massive drone take off, and you have a pilot who's just there like, it is quite exciting.
It is. It is. Sounds really nice.
Yes.
I'm just glad that we are employing all of these tools and technology.
Yes. It takes investment, but ultimately you gain from it, because what would cost you so much more to do by plane, you're doing it with a drone, and
saves time.
So I'm excited
Gives you
about
money.
that. I'm excited about people using technology to just like improve, and so you can focus on something else.
Yeah.
You can focus on people, training them, and things like that. So
Love it.
yeah.
Where do you think that AI has a role in agriculture?
Just that what I just described, obviously, and then also what AI does. And I'm still teething with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure some people are like doing amazing things, but I think how it can help out is with the statistics, because it's a massive database and it
Okay.
has everything. So you can be like, okay, in the last 10 years, how was the production and what were the main disadvantages and whatnot? And you can just have that data for your region, for another region, and you can learn from what's happening in South America, for instance, or in Asia, because China is like one of the biggest producers of bananas and things like that. So that's where you can use a tool and help yourself in Ghana, for instance, to just better the way you work and the way you grow bananas ultimately, So I think it's quite interesting to have access to this massive database. It's a bit scary because I'm not sure we know exactly to what extent AI can change our lives. We need to kind of have some regulations on that.
True.
Not that I'm an advocate for over regulations, but
just enough to keep people in shape.
Yes. But it's also interesting to know that you can just basically have access to that kind of information that can then help you with your job, your day-to-day job. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that the beauty of doing agriculture on a large scale like you do is that you get to see all of these different industries infused into agriculture in a way that is beautiful, like the drones and AI and tech and whatnot. Actually see them play out, and then you I think it's pretty. What role do Ghanaian banana exports play in the global food market?
Okay, so as far as bananas go, Ghana is a small nation of banana growers, because you have the Latin, Central and South American countries that are, it's from generations of growers of bananas. It's in their culture. They even have a word for someone who works in bananas and stuff. And then in Africa, our group has operations in Ivory Coast and in Cameroon, and those operations are much bigger than the one we have in Ghana. So we're still like a very young nation when it comes to like bananas. But our company being fair trade certified, when it comes to setting the minimum fair trade price, they would ask us for our production costs and how much it costs us to like produce one standard box of bananas, to then speak to our customers and impose a minimum fair trade price, as in you cannot buy the bananas below this price. It's also to protect us as producers, it's to protect the workers, because whatever premium that you're getting, it's going back to the workers. It's going back to their trainings, the canteen, the transport, all these advantages that they will get as workers, And in that sense, when it comes to setting up the minimum fair trade price, they would ask for Ghana's opinion as a banana producer, and they would give, because the cost that you have here will not necessarily be the cost that you would have in Ivory Coast, for instance. Ivory Coast is very humid. It rains a lot. It rains much more than it does in Ghana. And so they might not spend as much on irrigation as opposed to what we would do. So it's a good thing that we also have a say in how to set those prices, when it comes to the bananas in general in the world, mainly for the European market, because that's the main consumers of our production. And when we talk about fair trade, it's mainly for the European market. So yeah, I think I'd say that we have our say in the minimum price set for bananas.
I love that.
Yes.
At
Even
least-
though we're not a big banana nation.
Our voice matters. That's
Yes.
a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, let's come back now to finance
Mhm.
and agri and people who want to get into this industry of merging finance and agri. How should they go about it? Where can they start from? What do they need to read and know?
I think it's quite accessible, because it's not as competitive as banking, for instance. I think so. I'll just give 2 examples based on my time here and when I lived in Paris. For someone like me in Paris, it's very hard for them to be without a job. Companies will always hire someone who's, doing controlling and stuff. And then in Ghana, I'm struggling to find someone in Ghana, so it's still very much accessible. There's room.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not rocket science.
So you mean you're struggling to find someone to hire?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So, I mean, now my objective is just going directly to the school and hiring a young graduate, and then at least
them.
Yes, training them and whatnot. And then also, this is coming back to when we talked about farming being seen as manual. Yeah. When you tell them, oh, you have to be going to the field, you have to be going to. People don't really want that. They want to be in nice buildings in Osu and,
and go for happy hour.
Exactly. They don't want to drive a pickup and wear, boots and stuff and walk in mud. This is caricatured version, but sometimes when you tell them, oh, you'll be going to the farm and stuff, that's not what they want to hear, and my message is honestly, it's very accessible. It's not rocket science. Yes, I went to school, I have a master's degree, but you can start from being a trainee and then just evolving within the company and having the right trainings and the right certifications to get to where I am today, and I think it's just curiosity. You need to like numbers. It's a lot of numbers. You can't be bored looking at numbers. You need to like numbers, and curious and just open-minded, because sometimes you'll be completely out of your comfort zone, but it is what it is, So I guess my advice is, don't worry. People see finance as, oh my God, the Wolf of Wall Street. No, there's so many other layers to it. And this is corporate finance, which is more accessible, as in you're working with the company, you see what you're doing, rather than on a financial market where you're just dealing with numbers, but you don't see the goods or whatnot. This you can see, you can touch, you can feel, and you know what you're talking about. And it's easier because when I'm in a meeting, I can be like, oh yeah, we spent so much on irrigation because ECG has increased the prices, and it didn't rain a lot because I'm in the country. I know what's going on, and I go to the farm and I see, and things like that. So it's mainly curiosity, liking of numbers, and determination, I'd say,
I'm about to ask you a question, but I know the answer. What do you do for fun?
Other than watching live sports, you mean? Oh, yeah. Other than watching live sports, I read a lot. I like reading a lot, and I just love being with people in any sense, and just hanging out with people, and whether it's doing sports or not. So I never really did like a team sport because I'm just so bad. But if you guys want to go on a hike, yeah, we can do that. Or I do mountain biking as well, so we can do that as a group. Just as long as it involves people that just you
don't want to go at it alone.
No. I mean, I just said that how COVID changed me because I was just so miserable being on the lockdown. I need to, which is also a quality required for my job because I work with all departments, and I have to sit with all departments and tell them, okay, this was your budget. This is how much you spent so far. This is what we have to do, or blah, 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 blah. And you need to know how to communicate, be open, and, so yeah, I'd say that those are the things I do for fun, as long as it involves people, good people, and live sports. Yeah.
Love it. Are you enjoying Ghana?
I love it. I'm getting into my 5th year. I think I'm committed to Ghana. I'm here for as long as it takes. And I didn't have any expectations when I was coming because I've never been to the country. And I think that's a very good way of getting into new experiences. Don't have any expectations. Just be open-minded. Take the leap and we'll see, And I could very much focus on all the negative things about Ghana, but that was just going to make me miserable. And we don't want that. Like, I'm a very positive person. I always manifest things and stuff. So I just take it as, a very welcoming country. I feel at home. And, sometimes people think I'm Ghanaian, which is like, oh. Yeah. And then the height throws it away.
It's like, oh, you're really tall.
Yes. Yes. My Chui is still very shaky, but we're getting there. Yes. We're getting there. And yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad I came, those years ago. I packed everything and came without looking back. And so far, so good, because I just want to focus on the positive.
Love it.
Yes.
Bold move. And I'm glad it's paying off.
Yes, it is paying off. And I'm meeting amazing people like yourself. And, this is just like, yes, why not? I've never done this before. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not?
And it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dibor Diop. Hope that you enjoyed watching this episode or listening to it if you're listening via audio. Make sure to subscribe, follow, like, share with your friends, and get into agriculture. See you all next week. Bye.